Dr. Navnet Randhawa is Mrs. Norway. She is a medical doctor with a degree from the University of St. Andrews and University of Manchester and a postgraduate degree in clinical dermatology from Queen Mary's University of London. She enjoys collecting artisanal jewelry, learning languages. She speaks 4 languages fluently and attending and modeling in fashion shows. For years, she's worked on the front lines of refugee care, collaborating with government departments to establish large-scale accommodation centers and on-site medical clinics serving thousands of displaced families. Norway.
Hello everyone and welcome to my new broadcast today. I am Larissa Gabu, founder of Beautiful Inside World organization, the Larissa Gabu Show, and I am National Director of the Mrs. World Norway. Today I'm going to interview our former queen, Dr. Navnet. She's going to tell us her experience and I'm excited about what you want to share today. Welcome, Dr. Navnet.
Thank you so much, Larissa, for having me on your show once again.
Tell us, Queen, how was your experience at the Mrs. World in Las Vegas this year?
So I participated in Mrs. World in January this year. I was representing Norway, which was a great honor, and it was truly an incredible experience. But for me, it meant far more than simply taking part in a pageant. It was completely different from what I usually do in my day-to-day as a doctor, a mother, and a businesswoman. I had also recently had a baby and gone through some major things in my personal life. So choosing to do something this public, this unfamiliar, and so far out of my comfort zone felt like a real act of courage. And when I say outside of my comfort zone, I really mean it. Some of the contestants arrived with full glam squads and full social media teams. And I think that was just great. I would have loved to have my own social media team there. Thankfully, I had my coach there who had already experienced Mrs. World herself. And later in the week, my national director, Larissa, you, and my husband joined me. So I gradually went from being a one-woman operation to having a little support team of my own. The week itself, the pageant week, was intense. There were many early starts. There was hair and makeup, there was photo shoots, there were rehearsals. There was a lot of waiting around in country order. And I was often seated next to Mrs. Nepal. Well, I was seated between Mrs. Nepal and Mrs. Pakistan. They were absolutely lovely, and they were much better dancers than I was. But genuinely, what made the experience so special was the delegates. It was simply an amazing group of women from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, all coming together, celebrating one another and celebrating themselves, which I just love. There were doctors, there were lawyers, there were businesswomen, there were models, and even women who had been in pageantry for many, many years. And every delegate had her own inspiring story and her own unique reason for being there. And I just love that for everyone there. You begin by meeting the delegates, and then you meet their husbands, then you meet their children and their parents and their entire support systems. And by the end of it, it feels much less like a competition and much more like a community. Of course, everyone wants to do well. You put in so much effort, so naturally you hope for a good outcome. But people become very focused on rankings, on top 18, top 6, and top 3. But the thing is that judging happens in such brief moments. I do not think a ranking can ever fully reflect who a woman is or everything she brings to that experience. It was wonderful to see Sammy, Mrs. Thailand, crowned as the winner. She has represented Mrs. World phenomenally, and I genuinely do not think anyone could have done it better. The judges chose very well. For me, though, the biggest achievement was proving something to myself. I've always believed that confidence comes from proof. You build confidence by doing things that are hard. You build it by stacking evidence that you can do hard things. Every time you take a risk, overcome a fear, or follow through on something that scares you, you add another piece of proof to that list. And Mrs. World became one of those proofs for me. It was also an exercise in learning not to be controlled by other people's opinions. I was doing something very publicly in my mid 30s after having a baby and at a time when so much of my life had already changed. There were definitely moments when I wondered what on earth I was doing, but there were also moments when I thought this is exactly why I need to do it. I was basically living out a childhood dream, wearing beautiful gowns, getting my hair and makeup done, and attempting choreography that was clearly designed for professionals. And I was doing something that excited me, scared me, and unlocked a completely new level of Navneet. For me, that was a real achievement. I proved to myself that I could still take risks, step into unfamiliar spaces, and do difficult things. And if seeing me do that inspires even one woman, particularly after motherhood or a major life transition, to take a chance on herself, then I feel I already achieved what I went there to do.
I know you are the founder of Clinica Spa in Oslo. What inspired you to create a clinic?
I think the inspiration behind Clinica came from me wanting to do a business. I think I always knew that I wanted to build my own business within medicine long before I even started medical school. I remember when I was in school, I would be telling my friends with complete confidence that one day I was going to become a celebrity doctor doing cosmetic treatments. And at the time, I imagined that meant becoming a plastic surgeon. I clearly had a lot of confidence before I even had a plan. But as I progressed through medicine and began working as a doctor, I realized that what truly excited me was not only treating patients. I loved building brands, creating systems, starting businesses, and finding better solutions to problems. I naturally think about vision, scale, and how to create something that can have a much greater impact. That is when I understood that I was a founder at heart. And after I qualified and worked as a doctor for a couple of years, I knew that I wanted to open my own clinic. And that was the next natural step. Also, this was back in 2019. And after visiting a few aesthetic clinics, I realized that there was a real gap in the aesthetics industry. The experience often felt quite transactional. You could be in and out very quickly, and I felt sometimes that people were being treated more like customers than patients. And for me, that just did not feel right. Aesthetic medicine is still medicine. People are trusting you with their faces, their bodies. They speak about confidence and they trust you with their insecurities. And so they deserve time, honesty, and genuine care. There was another issue that really concerned me as well. There were so many treatments, so many devices, and so many promises in the market, but there was very clear guidance about what would genuinely help and what was suitable for the individual and what kind of result was realistically achievable. Unfortunately, there are also many treatments being offered that deliver very little benefit, yet patients are spending so much money, so much of their hard-earned money on them, and that never sat well with us. So, we wanted Clinica to be a place where patients could receive honest, medically grounded advice, even when that meant telling someone that a treatment was not right for them or that they did not need any treatment at all. I remember thinking, we can do this differently. We can change the way aesthetics is approached. That became the foundation of Clinica. I wanted to create a place where every person who walks through the door feels listened to, feels cared for, not just simply sold treatment. Today, we offer so many services. This includes skin treatments, dental treatments, body treatments. But what matters most to me is not how many treatments we offer, it is whether we are recommending the right treatment for the right patient and for the right reason. My brother and I are both doctors, and I believe one of the things that truly distinguishes us is that we genuinely care about our patients. We will always go the extra mile because that is simply how we are built. For us, the patient has always come first. The business has grown because of that principle, not the other way around. So that is what inspired me to create Clinica, the belief that aesthetics could be much more ethical, more personal, more transparent, and more deeply rooted in genuine medical care.
So, doctor, what is your biggest inspiration?
If I had to describe my biggest inspiration and my advocacy, it would be this. I I want women to know that life is not defined by one chapter. So often we think that if something doesn't work out, whether it's a job, a business, a relationship, or a dream, then somehow we have failed. But I don't believe failure is the opposite of success. I believe failure is often the beginning of reinvention. Every chapter that closes creates space for another one to begin. And sometimes the life we end up living is far greater than the one we had originally planned. And I have experienced that myself so many times. There have been moments when businesses didn't go the way I had hoped. There have been dreams that changed. There have been chapters of my life that came to an end. I have moved countries, I have changed direction, I became a mother and started over more than once. Looking back, none of those changes were failures. They were redirections, and every one of them taught me something. Made me stronger and they gave me the courage to build the next chapter.
The pageantry is we can't replace it. It's part of our life. It's not about the crown. It's about challenging ourselves, coming out of our comfort zone, meeting other people, connecting with the world and ourselves at the same time, and getting to become a better person, a better version of ourselves. We all women, when we're little, sometimes dream to be a princess, a queen. And then as mother, with all the experience that we've had, we have the chance to then fulfill it somehow. Is it not amazing?
Meant to me personally. It allowed me to represent Norway in my small way and to show that Norwegian women can be ambitious, they can be warm, they can be multicultural, accomplished, and unafraid to step into completely unexpected spaces. Being crowned Mrs. Norway World was an incredibly proud moment for me because I am so patriotic. I'm just very, very proud to be Norwegian. And it is probably one of the first things people learn about me when they meet me. Of course, it is a pageant title, but to me, it represented something much, much greater. It was the privilege of representing my country internationally. And when you meet people around the world, you realize that many of them know relatively little about Norway. They may know about the Northern Lights, the fjords, our oil fund or the sovereign wealth fund, and that is where their knowledge about Norway ends. But whenever I attend an event or go anywhere around the world wearing my Mrs. Norway World sash, people would always come over to speak to me. Someone would always tell me that they had a Norwegian friend or that they had visited Norway or that they themselves were Norwegian but now lived abroad. And I absolutely loved those moments. There always seems to be a Norwegian somewhere, no matter where in the world you go. And that title gave me a reason to find those people, connect with them, hear their stories. Suddenly, the title was not simply, suddenly, the sash was not simply something I was wearing. It was a conversation starter and a connection to home. And that is what representing a country should be about. It is not all only about standing on a stage with Norway written across your chest. It is about carrying a little part of your country with you and helping people feel connected to it wherever you go in the world. And now, after Norway's incredible run at the World Cup, even more people around the world know more about our little country. And watching the national team perform so brilliantly And seeing the Viking row become a global phenomenon was just such a proud moment. Our country truly had its moment. I
Yes,
loved seeing
was.
people everywhere learning the word ru, celebrating with us and experiencing that sense of Norwegian pride and community. It showed that a small country can still have an enormous presence on the world stage.
Oh, thank you for those words, Dr. Navnet. I really appreciate your time and thank you for your collaboration. We now have the Mrs. Norway 2026 Memona, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for the support and the collaboration you are doing backstage. You are going to be leading her and giving her the advice because she's going to compete in 2027 in Las Vegas. Queen, Dr. Navnet, thank you for coming. I love you, and I'm always excited to have you on my show. Looking forward for our future program because we're going to have virtual conferences with Dr. Navnet, and I'm excited about